if you don't learn from, as I said, if you don't learn from your mistakes, you're going to always fail. And
Mhm.
winners get knocked down just as often as losers, except they always get up again and they always keep
Mhm.
going. And so
Right.
it's the most important attribute of massive success is perseverance.
Welcome to Biz Help for You, the show that saves you the expensive learning curve by providing advice from industry experts in every facet of the entrepreneurial journey. Too many small businesses collapse. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, 20% fail within their first year, and less than 35% make it to their 10th anniversary. The goal of this podcast is to change that statistic. So if you're interested in learning more to be a successful entrepreneur, tune in today.
Let me tell you a little bit about my guest today. John Hewitt is a distinguished American entrepreneur who has left an indelible mark on the business world through his innovative ideas and strategic acumen. His notable success story lies in the tax preparation industry, where he founded two of the largest tax preparation companies in the United States, namely Jackson Hewitt and Liberty Tax. These companies have earned their place among the top 100 largest retail organizations in North America. Throughout his illustrious career, Hewitt's entrepreneurial prowess has been widely acknowledged and celebrated. He's received numerous prestigious awards, including Ernst & Young's Entrepreneur of the Year Award in 2003 and the International Franchise Association's Entrepreneur of the Year Award in 2005. His exceptional achievements have led to his induction into esteemed institutions like Ernst & Young Entrepreneurship Hall of Fame and the Junior Achievement Business Hall of Fame. You can draw inspiration from John Hewitt's remarkable journey and entrepreneurial excellence in the tax preparation industry. So, John, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. My pleasure.
I'm glad to have you here too. I am looking forward to our conversation. But before we get into questions on the topic, I would love for you to share your story of becoming an entrepreneur.
Okay, I think I can do 55 years in about 3 minutes.
There you go. Okay.
I started when I was at the University of Buffalo, working part-time for H&R Block. I loved it. 12 years later, I was running 250 H&R Block locations. And it was 1981. My dad was the CFO of a public company. He decided we should computerize taxes. So he convinced me to leave my job. He left his job, and we built the first tax software for an Apple computer. No one wanted it, way ahead of its time. Got blessed, and I found a company here in Virginia Beach called Mel Jackson Tax Service. Mel had died. We bought 6 offices from his widow. We merged the computer company and Mel Jackson. We changed the name to Jackson Hewitt. We went public, and 15 years later, we sold it for $483 million.
Wow.
So that was my first top 100 retail chains. Then I had to start over again, and my non-compete didn't cover Canada because Jackson Hewitt's never gone to Canada. Having grown up in Buffalo, I knew Canadian taxes. So we opened Liberty Tax in Canada, and within 3 years became a top 100 retail chain. So now I built one of the top 100 in US, one of the top 100 in Canada. Came back to the United States in 2000 when my non-compete ended. And now I had to compete against my own name, my own software, my own system, my own people. And yet we grew faster than not only Jackson Hewitt, but them and H&R Block combined. We opened almost a franchise a day, office a day for 12 years,
Wow.
4,000 offices, top 10 fastest growing franchises ever. I've now founded 2 of the top 100 retail chains in the country. No one else has ever done that. I brought in over 5,000 franchisees in my career. Liberty Tax went on to become a public company worth $500 million. I sold my stock, and now we have Loyalty Brands, which has 8 different franchise systems. So that's my 55 years in a nutshell.
Wow. That is a lot that you're able to accomplish. And it's like you're saying, I mean, it's something that most people haven't probably even thought of doing, let alone accomplishing. So congratulations too on your success over the years too. It's definitely something to be, acknowledged, that you were able to do that so successfully. But we want to talk today, about like the growth and success and things of companies. And, a lot of people talk about that too, but a lot of times we just don't know like what we should be doing, and we make mistakes, and a lot of times we're afraid to make the mistakes. So I would love for you to talk about maybe too how like we learn from those mistakes and how we could use those mistakes to accomplish things that maybe we thought the failures would prevent.
Yeah, often, if not most of the time, the biggest mistake is failure to do anything, to to make changes. And so that's often the biggest mistake of people's lives. So you have to be careful. But they they say, and I don't doubt this, the people that are the most successful have made the most mistakes. So I don't doubt that. I've made when it comes to my industry, when it comes to franchising, it would be hard to name a mistake that I didn't make. So I've either made every mistake or seen every mistake. And so when we have a franchise system, and again, we have 8 today, my job is to give the franchisee the best system in the industry. And that comes from all the learning, all the mistakes that we've made over the years. God, I've never seen anyone skate through life without problems, so without making mistakes. So it's critical component of learning and improving is we human beings mostly learn from their mistakes.
That's true. Well, and if you're not trying something new, you're not going to make the mistakes, right? But then you're staying safe and you're not really going for goals and things like that too. So if you are taking those risks, you are going to face failures. But like you said, you can learn from those and turn them into education that can help you, improve as well. So I think we just have to be okay with the fact that we are going to fail, but no one wants to, and it's hard to face. But I definitely think that with encouragement from others too, and saying, yes, you maybe made a mistake and you're thinking it looks, so bad, but you're going to be able to turn it into something successful.
Yeah, if you don't learn from, as I said, if you don't learn from your mistakes, you're going to always fail. And winners get knocked down just as often as losers, except they always get up again and they always keep going. And so it's the most important attribute of massive success is perseverance.
Right. So when people are working with their businesses, and especially as they start to grow, and you've had this experience with all of your growth too, sometimes it's hard to stay in touch with that final customer too. So how would you tell the CEO of the company how they could stay involved with their companies, but also realize that maybe the employees who are interacting with them maybe know a little bit more about what's going on with their customers and what their needs are too? So how do we balance that, wanting to be involved, but also listening to the staff who are talking to those customers daily?
Yeah, I've been observing. I've been disappointed in our service in the United States for decades. For 50 years, it's been declining. And I think you hit on the number one reason it declines is that CEOs, I call it CEO disease, they sit in their tower, their ivory tower, and they make decisions without knowing what the customers need. What we do every year in our franchise systems is we sit down with the tax preparers in the tax industry, with people closest to the customer. And we say, how can we improve? And what do your customers are changing in their expectations and what they want with the different generations. And so how can we give you the tools you need to exceed customers' expectations? And I learned a valuable lesson from one of my favorite authors, Sam Phelps. He said that when you go to a meeting, you never arrive exactly on time. You're either early or late. And almost no one goes in exactly on time. And he said, in the same manner, we never exactly meet a customer's expectations. We either exceed it or fail to meet it. So we judge our success in our companies on a percentage of customers that we exceed expectations, knowing we can never get to 100%, but each year our goal is exceed more and more percentage of our customers' expectations.
Mhm. That's a great way to look at it. I've never heard anything, described the way that you just described it, but it makes perfect sense, and so it's important. And even in that, like for my business, even a lot of times I still have customers who want to reach out to me or talk to me, and my staff, is answering the phone and saying, like, I can help you. And I end up telling my customer too, like, because I am not the one doing the day-to-day work all the time on every account, my staff actually knows a lot more about it and can answer your questions better. I might have to stop and actually go back to the employees to find out, what you're asking. And so I'm trying to train my own customers too, that it's okay to talk to the staff and they can help you. So do you have any advice too, from that perspective as a business owner? Sometimes we're afraid to not be that major point of contact because maybe we don't look as needed or important or things like that too. So how do we again balance that, being a point of contact but allowing the staff to actually handle those situations and interact with those customers to satisfy them and meet those expectations, exceed those expectations?
Yeah, it depends how big you want to be. If you just want to have a one-man shop and a handful of customers, then you can do all the work. And if you don't remove yourself from the day-to-day of customer interaction, you're never going to be incredibly successful. I mean, I built chains of over 10,000 offices, and I only did one tax return a year, and that was my own. And you have to avoid doing things that you can pay. I learned a long time ago that if I can pay someone $20, $30, $40 an hour to do something, then it's a lot better use of my time to be CEO of the business. Michael Gerber said in his book that you work on your business, not in your business. So again, if you just want to have one office and of 0 to 3 employees, you can interact with customers, but you're never going to be extraordinary. You're never going to have a huge success if you're the one that's doing the work.
Right, exactly. Well, obviously your career has been extraordinary and you've had lots of success and grown the company, scaled your companies, created all these franchises. And those who are looking to you as an example maybe want to know some strategies or principles that you use to actually achieve your goals. So can you fill us in on maybe what some of those were?
Yeah, the key thing is one of the key things is to have goals. When I started and bought Mel Jackson Tax Service in 1982, August of 1982, we had 6 offices, and H&R Block had 9,000. And most people would set a goal to one day have 10 or 15 or 20 offices. We set a goal to have 9,001 offices. So it starts with having big, hairy, audacious goals. And while we never got to 9,001 offices, today Jackson Hewitt has 6,000 offices. And it's a $1 billion company. So you have to have goals that are tough to achieve, that are outrageous. You can't just if you have ordinary goals, your results are going to be ordinary. If you have extraordinary goals, your results are much more likely to be extraordinary.
That's so true. So do you recommend in that case too, having that super stretch goal, like you had that goal of the 9,001, and like you said, you haven't maybe met that goal, but you well exceeded maybe one that might have been set for like, oh, well, we'll just get 2,000, right? So do you recommend like a super stretch goal and then one that's a little more reasonable, or just set that really high goal and work to achieve it and just be thankful for the success you are getting because you continue to work towards that goal?
Yeah, I think if I had set the goal to have 500 offices, then I would have made 500 offices. and I would have different strategies and different activities and
Mm-hmm.
different methodologies. But if you set a stretch goal, it forces you to think outside the box and do things better and do things different. You have to have differentiators when you're in the marketplace. If David had gone onto the field with the same shield and sword and armor as Goliath, there would be no David and Goliath story. He'd just be the 189th guy killed by Goliath. So you have to set audacious goals, and that gives you the freedom or the requirement to be extraordinary and not to accept the ordinary. So I've always had extraordinary goals, unrealistic goals, high goals, and that's not the budget, right? For example, if on the year we went from 200 to 300 houses, well, we said worst cases we're going to grow to 250, best case was going to go to 380. We're going to budget somewhere in between that. And so we always said a best case, worst case, and then an in-between case that's a little higher than that, a little bit more tilted towards the best case. So it forces you to have challenges each and every year, each and every day.
Mm-hmm. Right. And definitely having those lofty goals can keep you excited about, pursuing it too. Instead of, like you're saying, what if you said, okay, we'll get 500 and you hit 500 and you're like, okay, great, we hit 500, right? And it's not maybe even as exciting because the challenge wasn't as large as, and I think we're afraid sometimes to set those high goals. But I appreciate you're even saying, like, you set this high goal and maybe you didn't get there, when you thought you would, but you're still successful, right? So it's not a failure.
Yeah, and for example, here's a difference in strategy thinking versus if I had budgeted a few hundred versus 9,000. I started in 82. In 1993, we saw that H&R Block was testing in Walmart, and they were in 50 Walmarts. And H&R Block had been very successful and was in over 600 Sears stores. So we set a goal in January of 1993 to be in over 1,000 Walmart. Because if I wanted to get to 9,000, I needed here's the easy, inexpensive way to get a location where you don't pay year-round rent and you have 40,000 people a week walking by your little kiosk. So it took me 2 years to get my first. We got about the first 1995. We got about 18 locations. Today, Jackson Hewitt is in 3,000 Walmart. But if I hadn't set a high goal, then Walmart wouldn't have come into play, right? Because Walmart has 3,000 locations. If I only wanted to get to 200, 300, 500, then Walmart was too big for me. So it forced me to think, well, you know what? I need another vehicle to grow faster, to grow better, to grow more effectively. And so it caused us as a company and as a group to decide, okay, this is one of the ways we're going to get to 9,000.
Perfect. So in terms of what we're talking about then, I mean, you can set a goal or you can just hope that you accomplish something. So I'd love for you to talk about the difference between maybe the goal setting and just wishful thinking.
Boy, I hate wishful thinking. I have, when we set goals as a company, we first sit down as a group, as executives, and say, where are we going to be in 5 years? And okay, we have the long-term goal, and then we have the 5-year goal, and then we spend about an hour on that 5-year goal, and that's pie in the sky. And then we back it down to 3 years. Okay, if we're going to be there in 5 years, where do we need to be in 3 years? And then we spend a couple hours on that. And then, okay, now if we're going to be there in 3 years, what do we need to do this year and 1 year? And in my business, I've been in franchising. So it normally comes down to how many franchisees and how many locations you're going to have at the end of the year. And so if we're going to add 150 franchisees, well, the training department now knows they have to prepare for that many people to train. The supply department will know that that's how many people we're going to have to supply. The marketing department knows that, well, we're going to have 150 new offices that we're going to have to give a marketing plan to. So everyone has their plan a year in advance, and then you break it down into quarters. Okay, if we're gonna add 150 by next January, then how many do we need to add in the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter? And so our franchise development team, this is how much we're going to have to buy in advertising. This is how many people we're going to have to talk to. This is how many people we're going to have to close, train, and open, and so forth. So it's all broken down into eventually day by day.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, and obviously there's a difference between just being busy and doing things and actually getting the results that you want to achieve. So can you talk to the individual who's listening, who's saying, well, I'm working really hard, I'm doing all these things, but I'm not seeing, the results?
Yeah, hard work is, first of all, everything worthwhile requires hard work. So I would never ever say a word against hard work. However, you can work on the wrong direction and the wrong thing, right? And an example I use is in a seasonal business like the tax business, right? Then on April 15th, obviously is our busiest day. So you can work 20 hours on April 15th very successfully. But if you work 20 hours on April 20th, it would be a huge waste of time. So you have to make hay while the sun shines. You have to be careful that your hard work is taking you in the right direction. And you can't measure. One of our principles we have 10 principles. I love the 10 commandments. So I have groups of 10 of everything. But
nice.
and one of our 10 principles is measure results, not activities. I don't care how many hours you're there. If our goal is to bring in 3 new offices this week, then it doesn't matter if you work 10 hours or 20 hours or 50 hours, make 100 calls or 2 calls or 7 calls. What matters is getting that goal, hitting that goal. And sometimes I've had people that work for me that were they're nervous about how they were doing. And one guy, when he began reporting to me, he was so nervous about it. I said, here's what we're going to do. He was director of franchise development. We're going to put your goals right there on the wall in front of me. And if you come in wondering how you're doing, I'm going to point to the goal. And if you're hitting that goal, I'm happy. If you're missing that goal, and it says March 4, April 7, May 12. If you're hitting those goals, I'm happy. If you're not, I'm unhappy. Black and white. Your evaluation is based on the results you achieve.
So as an employer, we know we should be giving those goals to staff. And then some of them might say, but I'm having a challenge meeting those goals and I'm doing the things that I think I need to be doing. Like, how can we help the employees who are maybe facing those challenges be able to meet those goals? And, like you said, not maybe waste time on activities that aren't going to lead to that. But if they're doing the things that we're teaching them to do and they're still not having success, how do we help them?
Well, first of all, I never give goals, right? They come up with their own goals. So let's say we have a franchise development team of 5 people, and we're going to bring in 150 new franchisees. And that means they need to average 30 apiece. And so what I do is I sit down with the team and say, give us your goal. How many can you do out of these 150? And the best or some of them, not necessarily the best, some of us I can do 60, and some of us I can do 20, whatever. So what we do is say, okay, well, first of all, we're going to break that down weekly and monthly, and we're going to give you that many leads. It requires 100 leads per franchisee, new franchisee. So if you think you can do or in May, we're going to give you 400 leads. And then we're going to, so most of the time, almost all the time that I ask people to come up with goals, they set them higher than I would have. So I go to them and they're trying to impress me. So I go to them and say, you know what, I'm not good. Someone comes in and says, I'm going to do 60. So I'm saying, you know what, I'll be happy if you do 40. And then we break that down into monthly. And once we agree on the goal and the budget, then I'm servant leadership. I'm here to help you, right? Once you have your goal, once you have your budget, right, then my job is to help you. Your job is to communicate with me. If looking ahead, you're not going to meet it, you need to tell me, because either you need my help, or we need more advertising or more resources, or we need to change the goal. But you can't wait until the end of the year and say your budget at 40 and say, oh, I only did 2. I mean, you'll be fired long before that. So you have to set your goal. I edit it. I give you that. We agree on the resources you need, and then I'm here to help. You have to keep me informed all the way. If at any point it looks like you're not going to meet your goal, you tell me, and then I'm here to help you.
Perfect. I think that's great too, because I don't know if we always think as employers to let them set the goals. A lot of times we might have in our mind what the goal should be. So I like that you shared that. I think it's great insight, to help us.
I've never seen anyone where I set their goal that bought into it. They never buy in. They have to, in order to get buy-in, they have to think of it themselves.
That's great advice. Well, I know we're coming close to the end of the time that we have together. So I wanted to ask, first of all, if you have an offer that you would like to extend to our listeners, and then also if they have more questions or they want to connect with you, how do they contact you?
Well, that's a lot of questions at once. So let me say, my offer is a couple things. One is I do a mentoring program every week on Thursdays at noon, where I answer advice for entrepreneurs. And because I can give all this generic advice, you've been asking me for generic advice, but if you call me during the show or beforehand, I can give you specific advice to your situation. Secondly, if you write to us at loyaltybrands.com, I'll send you a free copy of my book, and it will tell you the journey, and has many mistakes and overcoming adversity that I had to go through to found 2 of the top 100 retail chains in the country. And no one's ever done that. And by the way, my Zoom and Grooming mobile grooming will be within 3 to 5 years will be my 3rd top 100 retail chain in this country. No one else has done it even twice. But
wow. And what's the name of your book?
It's I Compete. And you can get it on Amazon bestseller, but it's free if you write to me or write to my team at loyaltybrands.com. We'll send you a free book.
Perfect. Well, thank you for that. That's a great offer. And like I said, you have so much wisdom and expertise, and you've been there. And so your willingness to share that with others too is much appreciated.
Thank you.
Well, and I thank you for being a guest and just talking about this topic and sharing your wisdom. And I know the listeners will have appreciated your time as well. So thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
And to the listener, if you enjoyed today's topic and you want to hear additional information, you can find access to exclusive content in the show notes. So John, let's talk about raving fans for a minute for businesses too. Like, what is your definition of a raving fan compared to a regular customer? And what strategies can businesses use to cultivate these loyal and enthusiastic customer relationships?
Well, you can only do one thing, and I already talked about it on the show, and that's to exceed their expectations. And the evidence that they're raving fan, they only exhibit it in 2 ways. They come back and or they refer their friends. So a raving fan is someone who returns and refers.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for tuning in today. Would you please share this episode with those you know and leave a review on your favorite platform? And if you find our show informative, would you consider being a financial sponsor to help me continue my mission to educate business owners? A link is located in the episode description, and no amount is too small. I'd really appreciate your support. If you are interested in connecting with our guest and receiving the offer they had to share, a link to our resource page is in the show notes. Finally, if you have any bookkeeping or payroll needs, reach out to us at 310-534-5577 or contact@abandp.com. My team and I are eager to assist you. Until next time, have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Biz Help for You. Please join your host, Candy Messer, again next time. Have a terrific day.